Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann, the podcast where entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals share tips, strategies, and trends in their area of expertise. They also talk about their successes and struggles along their career and business journey. If you love to learn through storytelling and find people fascinating, join us. Welcome back to another episode of Rev Up Your Potential. Today, my guest is Heather Roberts. She's the founder of The Extraordinary Women, a business coaching that serves high achieving women, juggling the growth of their own business and raising their families. She believes that women need to create space by maintaining boundaries, leveraging their strengths, and supporting each other. Heather teaches women, extraordinary women, how to beat burnout and find the balance by simplifying and maintaining better boundaries in the Boundary Line Mastermind. She's the host of the podcast, Boundaries, Business, and Boobs. You heard me. A podcast for women leaders who are looking to break free from the traditional expectations, finding time for themselves, and honest conversations about the importance of boundaries. Delighted to have you here, Heather.
Thank you so much, Hilda. That was amazing because that's a lot of B's.
Yes, I remember when you said that was your podcast. I thought, okay, did I hear that right? Sure, you heard that right.
Yeah,
Boundaries, business, and boobs. And I think I said, I like alliterations. So tell us more about this business that you have. And, you mentioned Boundary Line Mastermind. So tell us more about your business.
Yeah. So like I said, or like you said, work with high achieving women, but there is a commonality that I have found, which is we are, as women of a certain age, and I kind of classify that as about 40 and up, we feel pulled to we've built businesses through that kind of hard driving, type A personality that we have. But in the same token, we're doing everything at home too. So not only are we pushing it in our business, but we're pushing at home. And that is that's not sustainable, and we can't do that. And so what I do in the Boundary Line Mastermind is work with women to create a blueprint. There's another B, and kind of map out, okay, what are the things that you actually have to do in your business? What are the things that you don't, or somebody else can do, or whatever? And then the same thing in your personal life. One of the things that I have found is that traditional entrepreneur advice is the very first hire you should make is an EA, an executive assistant. I challenge that. Because if you're a woman business owner, that is not your first hire. Your first hire is a housekeeper. Right? So those are the little things that are different for women.
So I find it interesting. You are a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right? When I first met you, I think that was 2 entrepreneur businesses ago.
Yeah.
And I always found you to be very, very organized because you were traveling a lot. Tell us more about your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. So it actually started kind of, I would say, almost an accidental because, I had thought I would be an entrepreneur. I was a stay-at-home parent for 14 years, and my husband had the corporate job. We decided to leave corporate, and I say we because it was a joint decision, and started our first company, which is RSG Sales, and we help home decor and furniture businesses grow their e-com sales channel. So think, Wayfair, Amazon, Target, those kinds of places. And that was great, but I kind of just wanted to try something a little different, I think. And that's when I started my decorative throw pillow company. And that was in 2013. I still had a foot in the door at the agency, but my primary focus was my decorative throw pillow company. I was really lucky. Within 2.5 years, we were a top 5 supplier at Wayfair. And I really learned a lot about implementing systems for automation and speed and how to really make your business not reliant on you. Um, and so I did that. And true confessions, I hated it. Like I was like, this is not the kind of company for me. Right. But that was okay because I learned so much. So I ended up selling the business in 2019 and came back to the agency and actually reorganized how we did business and how we worked every day and put in new systems to make us more profitable, make us communicate more effectively with our clients and each other. And I did such a, I'm going to say, good job of that. Is that I made myself redundant. So I am not involved in the day to day of the business. I have a team that handles it. I only spend a couple hours a week, and it allowed me to take a step back and think about what is really important to me and what are the things that I see that are people like me really having a hard time with. And it came down to boundaries. We, you know, we a lot of times set them in our business, but really stink in our professional, or in our personal life. Or we have great boundaries with this particular person, but we let somebody else run all over us. And I decided to make it my mission that, over the next 5 years, I want to reach 1 million women and tell them you don't have to live that way and work that way.
That's cool. Yeah, I think we try to do it all, because we have so many roles, but some of them technically we can't kind of give up. Our
Yeah.
caregiver role, our mother role, those are two
Right.
primary roles. We can delegate some of that, like the housekeeper, but we can't give up the whole thing. And
Right.
unlike some roles, some of them never go away. You're always going to be a mother. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter. You can be a good mother or a bad mother, but you're always going to be a mother.
Hmm.
If they're 3 years old, or if they're 30 years old, or they're, I don't know, 60 years old, that
Yeah.
elderly mother is still a mother to the 60-year-old
Yes.
child, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's always going to be that.
And I think it can be more challenging too if you have a child who has a health condition or, struggles in some other way. The thing that I like to say is then we need to make sure as the mother, you are taking the best possible care of yourself. Because if you are pouring from an empty cup or it's leaky at the bottom, you can't give in to others. And so finding out what it is that's going to fill your cup and keep it from leaking so that you can support, the people around you.
And I've heard that so many times, particularly in the last couple of years, is that, you think as a female, you go, 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 and you just keep going, going, going. But somebody stops you and say, you actually are not as productive and not as
Hmm.
effective if you don't
Hmm.
focus a little bit on yourself. Take care
Hmm.
of yourself first, and the rest will follow, right? So
Yes.
I appreciate, what you're saying about boundaries and helping. What, in your experience, what is it about us as women that kind of makes it harder? What are you hearing out there?
I'm so glad you asked me this because I had a fascinating conversation over the weekend. I was at a mastermind event with a group of folks, and we spent an hour on this very question because that's something that I threw out there. I was really curious, and it was a mixture of men and women. And at the end of the day, it was so fascinating to listen to both and it was different ages of women and different men, and everything. One of the men looked at somebody else and goes, I don't ever have that. Have you experienced that? And the
Was it
answer
a
was
man that he
no.
looked at, or a female
Oh,
that he
another
looked at?
man. Like
Okay.
two men looked at each other.
Yeah.
And the topic that he was referring to was the societal pressure to be it all. And they didn't understand how much that societal pressure is, whether it's self induced or outside forces. But the thing that was so interesting that the societal pressure was more so in women that were over 45
Mhm.
because we were raised a little bit differently than the people in the room who were 35 to 44. You know, they felt slightly different societal pressure, but that was the biggest. That theirs was, more of what they're putting on themselves as opposed to what society really thinks. So I think that concept of putting all of the pressure on ourselves to be, every woman, as Whitney Hughes would say, or Whitney Houston would say. Yeah, it's just we put our own pressure on ourselves.
And those who are the 45 plus grew up in a society that expected women to manage home, manage a career or an entrepreneurship, whereas the younger, there's more of an expectation for men to take on more responsibilities,
Yes.
whereas women
Yes.
women were expected to still do all of that. Like if they wanted to come to work, they still had to do all of this other, and they were not expected to ask for support
Or
from the spouse,
yeah.
because it wasn't a societal expectation. Whereas now it is an expectation.
Yeah, I can remember I am a child of the '70s, and I can remember I can't remember the name of the perfume or whatever it was, Dejanay or something. Anyway, but it was this commercial, and this woman would come home from work, and she's like, I come home from work and I fry the bacon up in the pan, and I'm here for my man, and the this and the that, and then she's like, da da da, très léger or something. Anyway, but that that commercial was on all the time, and obviously it made here it is, what, like a probably 45 years later, and I am still remembering, I could picture that woman, and she, would put on her little apron, and she would go, and I can fry it up in a pan, like I bring home the bacon and I can fry it up in a pan. Anyway, but I think that just reaffirms your point, Hilda, that, it's just definitely different.
So, thank you for sharing the entrepreneurial journey. If you had to do things a little bit differently, would you change how you are running businesses now?
I have the privilege to approach things differently. In part, I think it's because I have another business that's very successful that is, supporting. So I don't feel this pressure that I think I felt years ago back in the, 2007 and so forth. Um, it's what I actually try and teach women now is you need to create the business that's going to work for your life, not your life around your business. And you can do that and be profitable and you can be extremely successful. And it doesn't mean you're not driven. I think we mistake the word driven for I have to be working 60, 80-hour weeks. And that's not the case. I can be very ambitious and driven, but also really enjoy going on a walk with my dog or going to Puerto Rico for 3 days or whatever the case may be. So, I think so that's the big difference is you can do it at a more steady pace, like slow and steady, wins the race. Um, and I think before I was just like, you know, push, 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 push.
Yeah, I found in the early days of this particular business, because like you, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and this is my
Mhm.
fourth kick at the can. I was trying to get it all done, and I was, willing to put in 60 hours. And if I had a proposal that I promised I would deliver tomorrow, I'd stay up till 2 o'clock and I would deliver it tomorrow. Now I will say, I'll get to it, and I'll get it to you in 2 days' time because it just ran out
Mhm.
of time. So I don't mind doing that. But yeah, I found too that the way I gravitated is now I'm looking for coaches and mentors and colleagues who balance life, who are
Yeah.
important. I take Fridays off when I can. Clients will come first and I do have appointments, but usually I wrap up by 3 at the latest. And then I don't work again on Friday. And then I used to work some on Saturday, some on Sunday. Now I don't work Friday or Saturday. And sometimes I'll take the whole Sunday off too, because I think, okay, don't need to do that until Tuesday. That's okay. We're taking the whole weekend off.
Yeah.
And that's an evolution for me because I'm of that generation too, that we can do it all. We can be mom and we can be, chauffeur and run this business and help the husband and run his business, like it
Mhm.
just it's not in my DNA anymore.
I think part of the shift comes from a certain level of confidence that we develop. I think that when you are more confident in your skill set and abilities as an entrepreneur, then you realize, hey, part of the reason I got into this was to be flexible in the first place.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, I am totally with you. I don't work on Fridays. It's a hard and fast rule. And I don't work weekends. And I actually don't come to work until Monday at noon, because I like to do Pilates on Monday mornings. So, and then I try to really keep we have rules in our house that, after a certain point of time, work has to be done, talked about. We have to set that boundary so that we can have this separation of business and life.
You talked about developing systems, particularly systems where identify your strengths, know
Mhm,
what your uniqueness is, and really
mhm,
enjoy that, love it, embrace that passion. But
mhm,
those things that are not in your, in the basket of things you love to do or are capable of doing well, then find something. And you talked about systems. So
mhm.
are you a systems thinker? Is that one of your passions? Because I can see the people saying, "Well, I don't know how to develop systems. I'm not interested in it," but it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that a system is just a process. It's like a recipe, right? And so if you can follow a recipe, you can follow a system or a process. So yes, I very much am the person who I like checklists. I like to know the order of things. Um, and I think one of the best things I can tell your listener and my clients is, sit down in a quiet place and look at your calendar for the last 2 weeks and write down in one column at the top, write down love it. And then on the other column, write down hate it. Not just leave it, hate it. And so look at your calendar, and write down everything that you did that you absolutely loved. Like it filled you up, it gave you enthusiasm, you were excited about it and everything else. And then I want you to look at the hate it, go back through and go, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Everybody has parts of that of their job and their life, but sometimes we have to do it. And if you're looking at that and you're realizing in what you're doing, you have more hate going on in your day than what you love, then you need to take a serious reevaluation.
Mhm.
And that's when it comes into, we talk about like, are those things you hate, are they revenue generating or are they just time sucks? Is it because you're afraid to delegate it to anybody else? Or so we go into that further examination of why. But just start there because that can be the beginning of a system for you.
Okay. I love, the love hate column. Sometimes it really helps you if you write, I hate, and then fill in the blanks. Just
Oh,
like
yeah.
write the word hate, not just put it in the hate column,
Yeah.
because it stirs up more power, uh, imagery for you than just trying to figure it out. You
Well, and another thing that I say is another way to go about it is just let's say you're kind of stuck in something and you're struggling, like it's a project or you don't know where to begin or whatever. Just start with the prompt of how can I make this easy,
yep, yep.
and usually you come around.
I mean, just that ask really helps you to figure out, you know,
Mhm.
rather than say, "Oh, this is so drudgery." You turn it around to a solution kind of question
Yeah,
rather than a problem, with no hope of
whole
of
point. Right. I
of
mean,
solving
usually
it kind of
yeah,
question.
what happens usually in that I hate it list is then we need to find a team member that can do it for you, or we need to put in a time frame of where you can hire, someone to help you with that, whatever that is, so that it gives you like that something to look forward to. Like there is a light at the end of that tunnel.
So I know, setting processes can be, step-by-step things. But say there is technology that could be
Mhm.
used to
All about the
enhance
automation.
things. Yeah,
Yep.
automation. What like, I think a lot of us struggle between, well, what's the best automation out there for my needs? And, is this the right thing? So people are reluctant sometimes to even make a decision because they don't know if buying ABC product or JJJ product is better. So then they're paralyzed between those two. Do you have any suggestions for a step-by-step
Mhm.
decision making for
Yeah, actually, I
automation?
do. My first thing is do not pay attention to what your friends, your colleagues, your mentors, your neighbors do. Like, throw that out the window because their business is not your business. That's number one, because we so often get caught up in the bright and shiny. Um, the second thing is start with the simplest software solution. Do not overcomplicate it because when you overcomplicate, you get paralyzed with fear. So, for example, if you are oh, okay, so if you are wanting to start emailing your um, customers on a regular basis, maybe Mailchimp is the simplest and easiest way for you to get started, right? Then you can work up to more complicated, options and systems. So start with the most simple and cost effective way. You don't need all the bells and whistles at first.
Yeah. Try the free stuff first too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Um, what would you say are some pivotal defining moments in your journey?
The first one was when I was able to overcome imposter syndrome for the first time. I had been in a meeting and a gentleman at the table um, promptly just thought I was just this cute little lady. And he literally patted me on the head and said, "You don't know what you're talking about." And um, I got very angry because I realized in that moment that I did know what I was talking about and that, how dare someone, literally pat me on the head and try to push me on my way. Like, little lady, you don't belong. So that was a big, big moment. The second time was when I did create the pillow company because I was able to um, build build out a business that was successful and was able to sell it with an amazing exit. So it really that was another big boost. That was, I think, those are just two. There have been lots of things along the way. I have had some amazing mentors and coaches, but that have helped me realize some potential that I didn't know I had. But I think those are probably the two biggest for me.
Now, you said earlier that started this decorative pillow uh, idea, and then you realized you didn't love it. What made you go into it, and did you love it? Did you say, "Yeah, this is what I want to do," or did you even have some misgivings then, and it just materialized even clearer in your mind later?
Yeah, great question. So I think I went into it thinking I'm supposed to like this because of what we did in our agency. And in our agency, I was also really involved with helping with trends and color and pattern and, product development type things.
Mhm.
And so I thought, oh, well, I like to do that. So perfect. I'll do it for myself. I'll love it that much more. And I found out that I didn't. I mean, I tried to convince myself, but I'll never forget the day I looked at my husband, Josh, and I was like, "I hate it." And he's like, "What?" I was like, "No, I hate everything about this company. I hate it. I'm done. I got to figure out how I can make this so I can sell it." And he was like, "Okay." And that was it. I mean, 6 months later, I sold the business. Um, so actually from the time it went officially on the market, we had an offer. We'd gone through due diligence and closed everything within 6 weeks because I was so buttoned up. Yeah.
Well, I think that's courageous to make that decision, right?
Yeah,
You
it would have.
you were walking, you were admitting that this wasn't for you,
Mhm.
and then you walked away from it successfully, which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. I think I would have walked away. I was at the point I would have walked away probably either way, but being able to sell it just really gave me that extra confidence and self-worth that,
Mm.
"No, I can do this."
Imposter syndrome is so tough, and people are walking around proudly, and there's this bubble in their head that they gotta know that I don't know what I'm doing. They gotta know that. But we don't. That's the thing, is that I think we are hardest on ourselves, thinking we
Yes.
are less than who we are, and we should be proud of who we are. I do this thing
Mhm,
called I Am Remarkable. It's a Google initiative that helps women and underrepresented communities. So that can
mhm.
be Aboriginals, Blacks, different ethnicities, LGBTQ or whatever the new logo is, to understand that they should embrace their uniqueness, stand
Yes.
firm, and not think about the 60,000 thoughts in our brain. And one of them is going to say you're an imposter. Say, let's admit that. But
Mhm.
that doesn't have to be like 20% of your brain capacity making you feel less than you are. It's just one of those 60,000 thoughts a day that's going in your head.
Yep.
Take it and put it put it way down there, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yes, 100%. Negative self-talk is it is just so incredibly prevalent, and even the people who look the most self-assured are probably the people who have the most amount of negative self-talk.
Wow. Wow.
That's what I have found. They're the most insecure.
I remember this manager, she looked like she was so confident, and in high school she was head cheerleader, all
Mhm.
these things that, the people you admire are. And then we had this training session for all the managers in the hospital, and she confessed. She confessed that she feels insecure. And I go, really? If you feel insecure, what do you think the rest of us are feeling, right? Because
Yeah,
the rest
yeah.
of them felt like less achieved in having achievements in their life than this person. And now this person
Mhm.
is saying she doesn't feel secure. So now
Yeah.
I'm feeling more insecure than before, So I really want women to step up to own their abilities.
Mhm.
And that's why I became an I Am Remarkable facilitator, because I want to help people get comfortable with self promotion.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
We we my podcast is named Rev Up Your Potential, and Rev Up stands for 5 words: treat people with respect, look at them as
Mhm,
equals,
mhm,
value who they are, then look at the uniqueness and tap into the potential. So this is
mhm.
my recipe for success in helping entrepreneurs and people own their own abilities. What are your thoughts on these values?
I think it's the way that I've lived my life. That and it's the foundation that I think my husband and I have instilled in our children. I think that I try and live those words every day. Some days are better than others, but I've tried to build businesses and friendships and everything. I think that's just the foundation of what we should do as human beings.
I remember when we met years back, and you were doing the decorative pillow business, but you started another business with your daughter, and it
I
was
did.
about caring. Tell the group,
Mhm.
because I think inside many of us as women entrepreneurs, we want to do good. And oftentimes we'll find something we do philanthropically because we want to give back to our
Mhm.
community, our society. So share
Mhm.
that with us.
So the company was called Circe, and a Circe in the South of the United States is an unexpected gift or surprise. So it's the I'm out and about somewhere and I see something and it made me think of you, and so you get it. Now, a Cersei doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small thing. It could be, I found a 4-leaf clover and I know you've never seen one. I got it for you, whatever it is. But everything was built around that concept. And the basic concept of a Cersei is being kind. And so the whole company was around promoting kindness and supporting the Kind Project, which is an initiative in the United States that provides programming and education for middle school girls, because 13, 14, 15-year-old girls, are so mean. And so insecure, and they're mean because they're insecure and they don't
Those are
like
the tough
themselves, and
years. They're tough
and the
years.
hormones and everything. So our profits went towards that, and we firmly believe that the base of everything needs to be kindness.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I remember hearing about that starting up, and I was so touched by what you do in that, and what we could do to touch others and make them feel really a sense of belonging. Uh,
Mhm.
any other advice that you would give listeners before we wrap up our time together?
The number one piece of advice is, I would say, meet yourself where you are, meaning, you know, take care of you first, give yourself grace because it's not going to be perfect. And on the days that you're having a harder time or you're feeling run down or burned out, meet yourself where you are. You don't have to push through it. Be in that space. And then tomorrow is a new day.
That's such good advice. I think that would help with those who feel those imposter syndrome and have those days when they really feel less of what they're capable of doing. And
Mhm.
what a beautiful way to end our chat together. How do people get a hold of you, Heather?
Best way, two simple ways: go to extraordinarywomen.co, or follow and subscribe to my podcast at Boundaries, Business, and Boobs. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, being my guest, and sharing so many things that I feel were nuggets to help people set their boundaries, find their boundaries, be okay with themselves. Your journey has helped us. Your wisdom in your expertise and finding this company of yours that will help those high achieving women set those boundaries and live the life they want has been so good for everyone. So thank you for being a guest on my show today.
Thank you, Hilda. I've so enjoyed it, and I feel so honored that you allow me to share with your listeners.
Well, boobs. What was it?
Boundaries, business,
Boundaries,
and
business,
boobs.
and boobs. Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. Yes, but on a more serious note, thank you, because those are words of wisdom that will help women who are on a career journey or on an entrepreneurial journey and really want to come to some level of confidence and comfort in what they're doing. So thank you very much. To my listeners, thank you for taking the time to listen or view the podcast. If you love this, give it a thumbs up. Put a comment in the chat, and if you really like it, look at subscribing. There are so many interesting people, different walks of life, who will give you some advice and gems. Like, I think of gems as something you can put in your pocket and think about and use later on. So join us. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.